This is a
1999,
Jeep Grand Cherokee.
and I bought it for $2 grand. Here are the pictures that were listed on OfferUp. The Jeep is definitely looking rough and not very clean either, but it runs and drives and it's only $2 grand, so I bought a one-way shuttle ticket to Vegas with intent on driving it home. Well, the shuttle bus driver was super nice. The shuttle's supposed to go all the way to the McCarran Airport in Vegas, and he was nice enough to let me off at which is pretty close to where I need to be, and I'm just gonna walk a couple miles to where I'm picking up the car instead of Ubering from the airport, which would have been like 50 bucks or more, probably like 80. So total bro move, shout out to him. This is the first video I have of the Jeep airing up all the tires in the pouring rain before heading home. The next day I spent the entire day cleaning the Jeep inside and out. I should have taken more before videos, but this is what was under the back seat alone. I found a bullet in this car. it's still like in the casing and everything. Well, I guess it's a round. It's not a bullet. That's a bullet. The whole thing's a fucking round. AR-15 round, 223. After a deep clean, I think it's looking way better now. Well, look at this back window. You can't see hardly anything out of this whenever there's, glare from the sun, so it's not on the outside. But the inside, I guess I could fix it if I just, do that all over the place. Stay tuned. Some people commented that scraping the rear defrost like this most likely will make it not work anymore, but joke's on them because I don't think it worked to begin with, and I live in Utah, so I really never will need it. And here's kind of the second time that I'm cleaning out the inside, so I'm just vacuuming up all the residue that came from the tint that I just scraped off. And same here, just more tint residue. I just want to give a brief overview of the Jeep. It's a 1995 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 5.2 liter V8. It's got a 3 to 5 inch rough country lift with some nice off-road tires that have a decent amount of tread left on them. It's 4-wheel drive all the time, and the transmission was recently swapped out in 2020. I don't think it was swapped with a brand new one though, since it doesn't have overdrive. The previous owner was nice enough to give me everything he had lying around for the Jeep, including the driver door panel and the overdrive solenoid for the transmission. I definitely plan on fixing the overdrive solenoid soon, but I can't seem to find any pictures or videos on where the thing actually goes after dropping the transmission pan. I've seen a few for changing the shift solenoid, but as far as I know, that's not what I need. I'll eventually get to it, but for now my fix is right here. The Jeep actually isn't too rusty at all underneath. It just has some surface rust, nothing deep that would need repaired as far as I can see, and everything on the frame looks straight too. The automatic windows all work, and believe it or not, the air conditioning works fine too. I think I got a pretty decent deal even with all the repairs it ended up needing, and let's get into those now. I could tell that passenger tire had a mind of its own on my drive home, and here's the culprit. Look at that drag link end. Oh my goodness. Look how bad this is. I purchased a steering kit, wheel bearings, and a heavy-duty steering stabilizer to fix the issue. To start, I jacked up the Jeep and shook around the wheels. I know that shaking them up and down tested the ball joints, and I guess I wasn't recording when shaking the wheels side to side. I also know my ball joints are on their way out, but I'm just putting off changing them for now. Alright, so starting the wheel bearings now. If it looks like I know what I'm doing, I really don't. I'm just following along with the video from Barricade Garage. Dude is a legend. His videos are super helpful and you should definitely check out his channel. Now that I got the brakes and rotor off, the next step is getting off this axle nut which spun the passenger tire when I would try loosening it. I ended up wedging a towel under that tire and I was able to get it off. The only things holding the wheel bearing on now are 3 bolts behind it which are really hard to get off without leverage. You can literally see me stepping on it right there. I ended up getting 2 of them loose with frost strength, but the last one was impossible. I finally got fed up and banged a hole in the end of my lift bar, and it was just big enough to fit my smaller wrench in it to give me enough leverage to get the last one loose. At this point I cut my back on some rust in the wheel well, and I went to get a tetanus shot, because I figure I'll be getting more cuts from this rusty Jeep in the future. When I showed this previously, I got a lot of comments from people saying basically if I'm going to run to the hospital for a shot every time I get a little cut, I should never touch a car again. I don't know, I thought it made sense even though it's super rare. is ironically the first time I've ever worked with normal disc brakes and wheel bearings. I've done countless bearings and drum air brakes on semi-trucks, which are heavier and a little bit harder to do. Here's the tail end of doing the passenger wheel bearing. Like 90% of this footage was unusable because for some reason my camera was flopping all over the place despite literally being mounted in place. I stabilized the footage as best I can in editing, but you can't speed up stabilized footage in Premiere Pro, and having 4+ minutes of AI stabilized footage in a row makes it lag like crazy despite the computer I built being a damn spaceship. I bought a 360 camera soon after this was filmed, so it shouldn't be an issue going forward. I can just shoot first and reframe and edit later. After finishing the passenger side, I realized I forgot to put this big washer on before the axle nut on the driver's side, so I fixed that. Moving on to changing out the steering components. I rented this ball joint press and it ended up being too big and heavy to get it properly set to knock anything loose. People were saying that you just need a hammer, but trust me, that wouldn't do the trick in this case. I ended up renting a ball joint separator, and around now is when it fell off and smacked me upside the temple, which didn't feel great, but I continued on and eventually got it loose. Sorry for blinding you with that light, I'll put this square there. At this point I had to buy a blowtorch because the castle nut was spinning with the bolt and no amount of WD-40 was going to make it come loose. I also fished a nail through the hole in the bolt and vice gripped it so I had something solid as leverage. Moving the old steering stabilizer here.
Oh my gosh, finally got it off. Time to put the new stuff on. Look at that, this thing doesn't even look new. It's got rust on it already. There was so much stuff all over here, I had to literally use a wire brush to scrape it all off to get that on there. Like, thought about a new part. This one's clearly new.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that part not looking new. It came as part of a kit from 1A Auto, so not really sure how other parts look new, but that one didn't. Now putting on the new stuff. It was so much quicker and easier than getting the old stuff off. I was able to torque 2 of the castle nuts to spec, but the passenger one was again turning with the bolt for some reason, even though it was brand new. I ended up just vice gripping the bolt and tightening the castle nut with a crescent wrench. Lastly here, just installing the new heavy duty steering stabilizer and making sure everything is torqued to spec. And if it looked like I know what I'm doing throughout this process, I don't. I'm following along with another video from Barricade Garage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Took it to a shop to get an alignment, and then ended up having to get a new battery too because this one decided to kill itself and couldn't even be jumped anymore. It's also the wrong size battery anyway. The new one ended up working fine for a bit, but those battery terminal connections are so bad that it got to the point that nothing would happen when I turned the key. I changed out the battery terminal connectors for some new ones and also cut off some corrosion from the end of the wire. Another thing I did around the same time was buy a grease gun because I knew the new steering kit would need greased, and it can't hurt to hit all the rest of the fittings I could find underneath it as well. Also checked all my fluids and topped off anything that was low. I washed that K&N air filter too, and I wish I took a video of it because it was so disgusting before and now it's much more clean. She drove home from Vegas with my coolant reservoir chilling in the trunk. Thankfully the Jeep never overheats and the radiator was full when I checked it. Now this part might make some of you cringe, but I wasn't about to buy a new coolant reservoir, so I just duct taped some cardboard over the hole. I also didn't have a cap for the coolant reservoir, so I just duct taped on one of the caps from my supplement bottles. Shout out Derek, More Plates, More Dates, the best fitness YouTuber out there. As you would expect, the coolant leaks out of this reservoir pretty easily. I'll probably just go find a replacement one from a junkyard eventually. Another thing I noticed was that this tube here had a cut in it, so I duct taped that as well. I wasn't sure what this cable end was, but I assumed it had to be connected. I posted it on a forum and got replies telling me to fix it immediately because this is a transmission throttle variation cable, which basically controls how well your transmission shifts. I bought this 3D printed end piece for an extortionate price in hopes of fixing the issue without replacing the whole TV cable. That ended up not fixing the issue, and after checking the other end of the cable under the Jeep, I noticed that the end of it had come loose and got a ton of dirt and grime in it, which made it hard for the cable to move freely when it should move like butter. Here's the new genuine Mopar TV cable from Amazon. Now let's get to installing it. Now, I wasn't able to find any pictures or videos on how to change this out for my specific model of Jeep, but that's probably because 1, it's close to a 30-year-old Jeep, and 2, it's actually super easy. I ended up just duct taping the new cable to the old one and pulling it through from underneath the Jeep. Each end of the TV cable is held in with clips, so there's not even any extra hardware needed. The hardest part of this repair was just getting off the duct tape and figuring out how it clips in, which was pretty easy to do after looking at the old cable end a few times. And I can't help but get hype every time a repair goes to plan. This is where I'm going to end the video. I still have many more repairs to cover, so subscribe for more. My plan for the channel is to keep making videos. I definitely plan on making more long form videos. They just take a long time to edit. I'm teaching myself as I go, and I'm kind of a perfectionist, so if the video isn't something I could see myself watching, I'm going to put more effort into it. I'd absolutely love to buy crash damaged sports cars and fix them up. I one day want to LS swap a vehicle, probably even my Jeep once the Magnum V8 dies. I'd like to take a stab at Tesla swapping a car, and I'd love to restore classic muscle cars like an old Charger or Corvette. Like I said at the beginning, I'm doing all this with my own income, so it might take a while before I'm doing wild things like Tesla swapping a car, so now is one of the few times I'm going to plug my tip jar linked in my bio. Don't feel the need to donate though. The point of YouTube is that it's free entertainment, and I'm all for that. Lastly, I see probably 99% of the comments on my channel, the vast majority of which are super nice and positive, but there's still a few really mean ones too. I'm here to say please don't change. I've got thick skin and I don't get offended by anything, so roast my ass if you want, and I'll just giggle away reading them.